Good morning, and welcome back to the show. Glad to have you with me today. I hope you are having a good day. Um, the show is Who Am I? It's kind of a riff stream of consciousness. It's me doing my own internal work, but I'm doing it orally, and it's wholesome and perhaps interesting enough that I'm putting it up on the internet. We're going to riff about the nature of reality itself. I'm going to try to put together all the things that I know that my spirit has put together and said, yes, this part is important, and this part is important, and this part is important, and just going to try to put it all together into a big lump sum, an integrated wholeness. Who am I? From every angle that we can come at it from, the ultimate intention is to get myself and humanity, assist and aid and abet humanity, because I am a humanity, so I want to contribute to humanity and the education of humanity and the consciousness of humanity. I come at it from an idealistic standpoint, that's for sure, and I'll admit it right up front. I am an idealistic realist, or a realistic idealist. I'm one of the two. I try to add elements of both. I paused the recording to go find one of my favorite quotes. I wrote it on the back of it was a double elimination pool tournament grid, template, whatever, on a like 10 by, maybe it's 8 by 10. It's an 8 by 10. Seems a little bigger than that. Anyway, a long time ago, I wrote this quote, and my daughters framed it for me. And I was gonna go find it, and what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna put it into the OBS studio tomorrow. So look for that. Look for a new screenshot in tomorrow's show. There's something to look forward to. So who am I? I am coming at this from an idealistic standpoint, but I'm also coming at it from a realistic standpoint. The fact is humanity has a whole lot of problems on the ground, and we need to solve them. But I think that the way that we solve them is by understanding who we are and what the setup is, what the rules of the grid are, what the rules on the ground are, how the universe is flowing, and what the rest of the field is doing, so that I can more accurately flow with it, interpret what's going to happen next, understand what the F everybody else is up to or not up to, and what you could expect from them or not. Now, I really don't mean to come at it from the standpoint of solving every single problem that humanity has, although it is my firm belief that if we would come from a truly realistic standpoint, understanding who we really are, we could be a lot more idealistic in this world and be successful at it. You know, I know that I have been accused by close people to me, like within the tightest inner circle of the people I can hold on my one hand, of trying to be too good. And it's not that. I'm not, it's not an effort if you're coming from who you really are. And so anytime I find myself authentically positioned, it's like, ooh, this is it, this is it. Ooh, flowing nicely with the group. Ooh, things are working out for me, and all that kind of thing. It's a good thing. It's not a goody two shoes thing, you know? But the only way to get into that position is if you are actually realistic about who you are and how it works. Otherwise, the universe is going to beat the crap out of you for trying to be nice. The innocent, the naive that walks into the situation just, wide-eyed and assuming that what they are looking at physically, the physical setup or whatever, is honest, is as it appears, they're going to get beat to shreds. What you have to do instead is sort of not pay so much attention to the specifics of the conditions and pay ultimate attention to how you feel about things and allow yourself to be flexible, to be optimistic, to be reserved if you need to be. Don't be naive about the world. The world actually can be a very brutal place. Don't kid yourself about that. But because it can be such a brutal place, it is ever even more important that you understand how it works. And understand that in a way you're being intentionally Pollyanna by intention, sly like a fox kind of thing, you turn your face into the light and you step out onto that invisible path, and you do it intentionally. You don't do it because you think it's sort of like the Mr. Magoo effect. Or another one who does this is the Don Quixote effect. It's like the intentionally facing the idealistic or intentionally, well, actually Mr. Magoo does not intentionally do what he does, but there is something about Mr. Magoo. He has this light, sunny air about him, and he has this faith about what the world is. And he walks through it, and all kinds of things are happening all around him as he walks through, but he can't see very well. So he misses all this stuff that's going on, and he is focused in his own thing. And you know what? There's an effect like that you can stir up for yourself, and how you do it is you get to focusing on what you care about and what you're interested in, and you get a momentum going in the positive direction that way, and you keep your eyes focused that way, and you never let the center of your focus fall directly onto evil. See evil out of the corner of your eye. Don't turn and try to catch it with the full aperture of the center of your focus. You don't even want to look at evil that way. You want to keep your eye very intentionally focused on positive things, while at the same time not being naive about the evils and potentials of this world. How do you pull that dance off? It's an interesting one. Now, the intention of the show, I say that I want to talk about who am I as in reference to source, but that kind of means I'm going to talk about who am I as both a spiritual being and as a physical being on this earth, facing physical problems, facing physical issues. And I think that one of the problems that humanity has right now is that we are sort of in the throes of committing a scarcity, an obscene scarcity. We are trading everything that is valuable for a commodity that would be free if we but understood how to extract it from the field. And I'm not talking pie in the sky, because I'm telling you, people have already invented devices that allow us to pull work out of the frequencies around us. So I'm not sure if anybody has ever extracted power directly from the actual source, or whether the over unity devices and these really good ideas for freeing us from fossil fuel. Ooh, on the one hand, I was giving the fossil fuel industry just the tiniest bit of credit. There is humanity in the fossil fuel industry because there are human beings working within the fossil fuel industry. And there are human beings that would testify against the fossil fuel industry if there was any kind of a structure that would support us all if we decided to move from the field that we are in. If there was an intermittent supporting structure. Maybe that's how you have to structure the law, so that you build your career in anything whatsoever. And then if you want to change, all you have to do is submit. Never mind. I'll think about this on my own. We need to have a supporting structure, though, so that those people within the fossil fuel industry, when they work to bring the fossil fuel industry to a close and birth into this world clean, free energy for all people, that they see in that somehow a win for themselves. That win-win position that I talk about all the time, that I think is sacred. It's the win-win-win-win-win-win point on the grid is where your own inner being stands, because your own inner being is playing nice with everybody else's inner beings. And my achieving my dreams and my happily ever after and my dreams come true the perfect position for that does not step on your ability to do the same thing. So my inner being and your inner being are standing in a place where they are not contradicting one another. My desires do not actually contradict your desires. You may think that they might, and the unthought through desires of human beings, if they could just wink them into being, they would contradict, because you need to get into your desires need to be in alignment with your inner being's truest desires. Now, anything that you desire is fair game, but if it isn't your truest desire, you will find that it is contradicted. You will have that I want it but thing going on. I want it but I don't believe it. There might be reasons why you don't believe it, because your greatest desire is not necessarily that you selfishly rob that bank. Actually that wouldn't be your greatest desire. That you have all the money, that you go have a fleet of Lamborghinis. Everybody doesn't even want such things. Most people want, I'll tell you what we all want in general, unconditionally. I mean, this is unconditional. It's not boiled into specifics, but we all want warm, solid, stable, dependable, loving relationships, mutually supportive relationships with the field around us, whether it's in business, whether it's in recreation, whether it's in our family. We want the freedom to do what we want to do when we want to do it. We want to feel free, safe, loved. we want tactile things to do in this specific world that gain us all of those things I just said, plus a tap into the what I call the supply chain of humanity, which is I get to go shop at the smorgasbord of what humanity has to offer. You know, healthcare remedies and or steak knives or fresh peaches and or leg warmers or lamps or get what I mean, or Lamborghinis or building materials or home home mechanical whatever, asparagus, pickles, foodstuffs of all sorts, technologies of all sorts, healing modalities of all sorts, or services of all sorts, massages, nails, hair, dentistry, all sorts of bodily maintenance, home maintenance, transportation, communications, all the things that you get when you monetize. But you have to, in order to monetize, you have to offer to the world some sort of value, give them some sort of value, and then you get to, and there's all kinds of ways to do it now. The world has really opened up. Back in the day when I was a kid in the 1960s. I was a little kid in the 1960s. Every decade of humanity was a decade of mine. I was born on a 0 year. And there was a way more finite sense of what were the jobs out there that you could do that kept the machinery of humanity working. You could be a nurse or a teacher or a doctor or a policeman or I don't know, what were they? They were finite. And computers weren't even a thing. I mean, they were maybe to the military or the CIA or somebody, but to people like you and me, when I was a kid, computers weren't a thing, and cell phones weren't a thing. They weren't even a thing to anybody at that point. I'm not sure. Only millionaires, and there weren't billionaires at that point. Million was enough. The richest people in the world only had millions of increments, not billions of them. Only the richest people had car phones, and I'm not sure they had them in the 60s. They had them in the 70s. They might have had them in the 60s. Did I ever see that on Bewitched? They would have only been the rich, though. Very, very rich. I'm not sure they had them. Anyway, where am I? Who am I? Oh, yeah. We want to talk about how all of this is going to free us from fossil fuel. How is it going to free us from fossil fuel? Well, later this week, my daughter is going to teach me how to embed videos right when I want to. So I'll have it like as a link in my OBS studio. I change the screen to this place where you can click on this link right when I talk about it. I'm going to tell you about things like the movie, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. And boom, up is going to pop the link. You're going to be able to click on it. You're going to be able to leave me and then come back later, finish the show, or just come back and see me tomorrow. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. I'm working on myself, and you are just cordially invited to watch me work. But it's also going to be a good thing to be on the show, to be able to direct people to my material that I want to share. And it's not my material, it's other people's material. They're going to get the credits for I'm not actually, I have done nothing to monetize my show. I don't want to monetize my show. I want people to watch it, but only when I get good. When I'm not good, I don't want a lot of people watching. That'd be silly, wouldn't it? So I'm just working at getting able to sit in a room for hours at a time and talk to myself. I can't depend on having somebody to do this show with me. I can't depend on somebody else to have the vision, the vision that it is that I'm thinking about that I want to pull together. You know? This idea of the quantum field and how an understanding of this quantum field brings us to a better understanding of ourselves and what is possible. And that's what I want to focus on. But I want to do it because I want to acknowledge that humanity has issues on the ground. We do. And all of our issues can be better served if we understood who we were. You know? It's like, and I say this every day, it's to handle it in any other way. To punish people into better behavior. Please don't elect the law and order candidate. Please don't do that. Just because things are a little rough out there does not mean it's time to elect the law and order candidate. It means that it is high time that we understood who we are. Who we are. And if we are on the brink of electing the autocrat, the authoritarian. And I say this, somebody, one of the comedians said it humorously a few months ago, but the fact is it's true. This election is close. It's close. And so what's going to happen is on January 20th, both of them are showing up to be inaugurated. Whether he wins or not, he's showing up. So, but if we happen to elect the autocrat, then it really is high time that we understand who we are. And we don't play this out again in the us versus them paradigm. Now, half of the territory is going to play it out as an us versus them, because that's what the problem is. The fact that they are seeing it as a paradigm that it is not is half the problem. And so when they are us and theming, how do you not us and them right back? When they point at you and say, you are the enemy, how do you not say, hey, you're the problem, enemying me? How do you not do that? Well, actually, you can do what I just said, because that was actually pretty kind. That was pretty soft. You could say, you know what? The us and them in the first place is the problem. I am not your enemy. And subtracting me from the equation does not make the world a better place. There was a lot of people who walked away from that war, horrifying as it might seem, who think that the problem is that they didn't finish the job. Had they finished the job, then the vermin would be clear, and now, glorious things could be underway even as we speak. And that is just monstrous, because the problem is a vibration, and you couldn't possibly have physically subtracted it in that horrible, monstrous way to begin with. And the spirit that you had to be in as you underwent that ghastly project last century, I'm of course referring to the Holocaust, the spirit that you had to be in is what you should have been protecting yourself from all along. It's just really weird. Now, I do not mean to say that our autocrat is Hitler, because he really, really isn't. And when he says it in front of his people and they all laugh, they all recognize where he isn't Hitler. What they don't recognize is the part of the playbook that is, the spiritual aspect of it, and what's dangerous about it, and what isn't dangerous about it, and what is dangerous about it. What's bad, what's true, what's false, what's all of that. They don't really understand how it reflects and what the issue is. Carl Jung would have called this, he called the whole thing, he called it authoritarian psychosis. And it's a Paul Levy would call it Wetiko disease. And he gets that term from a Native American term. It's related to the term that you hear in mythology, the Wendigo, you know, that monstrous creature or whatever. But what it actually comes from is this Native American term. Paul Levy has decided that Wetiko is the closest, most general, the best one that reflects, and I'm not sure exactly which tribe's version of this word he specifically pulls it from, but it is a Native American term, and it refers to a psychological condition that all human beings are subject to. And it's actually it turns out to be, this alignment thing turns out to be a condition that you are in or not in the moment. But when it rises to the level of Wetiko, and the Native Americans are talking about this, it's a sort of a psychosis. It's a pathological condition where the human being is not, their heart and their brain are not connected to one another. And as a matter of fact, they would draw this condition. You can see it in the Hopi prophecy. You can see it written as the beings who don't have their heads connected to the body. Those who are going off they're going off on the path that I think that the beings are conveyed this way. There are native drawings where they draw the people with their heads not connected to their bodies. That's what the condition is. It's the heart not connected to the brain. And you know, the Heart Math Institute, who has been at it they were founded over 25 years ago. I believe it's over 25 years ago, or maybe it's almost 25 years ago, or maybe it's exactly 25 years ago. The Heart Math Institute has been studying this exact same thing, and they teach their work to all branches of our lives, how to quickly integrate your heart and your brain together in the moment, so that in the moment you make better decisions. You are better able to handle crises, you know. So they teach this to the military. They teach this to, but it's a quick thing. They're not philosophizing in any long distance kind of way. But a human being whose heart is chronically connected to their brain will behave in a different way than a human being whose brain and heart are chronically disconnected. And of all the things that you could say about Hitler, and I don't know quite what you can say about Trump, because I don't know. Oh, did I say his name specifically? Ah, well. I don't know him specifically, so I don't know exactly. And I try not to watch the man, because it really gives me heartburn, you know. But actually, he doesn't come up a lot on my feed. I kind of wish that I could watch him a little bit more, so that I could speak to him directly, or speak to his whatever directly. He's going to be a player in the field for a while. I'm not, he is one of us. He is part of me. He is my unknown self made visible, and he's your unknown self made visible too. And the answer is not to subtract him. The answer is to assimilate him somehow. He is a piece of us. He is representative of a legitimate piece of us. But he is not a wholeness. He is a splinter. He is a shard. He is a whatever. I think he is an illustration of probably of someone whose heart and their brain are not very well connected. I know that whenever I do listen to him, he is always blaming somebody else. He is trying to take power for himself, but in a way, it's because he feels completely powerless. Because if you listen to him, everybody else in the whole wide world is responsible for everything, which means that he has no power to do anything himself unless he can control all the people and tell them what to do, at which time he will, I'm air quoting, he will fix it. He's the only one who can fix it, and by jingies, he's going to fix it. Well, he must feel very powerless, because I personally don't feel that it's everybody else's to blame. I think that we are all in this together, and we are all collectively misunderstanding something. And when we all collectively understand it better, we're going to play the board a little better. And it's not going to be as wild a ride. We're going to flow with the mothership. We're going to, be paying attention to our cosmic overview, guiding us through the labyrinth. And the way to guide us through the labyrinth is not to identify the monsters, where the monsters are behind which doors, and then, open up the doors and kill the monsters. It's to understand, forget about the monsters, pass right past those doors. Keep your shining eyes on the prize, and your inner being will guide you through the labyrinth to the, golden ring at the, or whatever, the carrot, whatever it is that you're, not the carrot, because the carrot implies a prize that you never quite get to. And I'm talking about, actually making it out of this wilderness of fighting with each other and not having enough. And some of our children aren't doing very well. We worry about them joining cults or succumbing to their addictions or whatever, whether it's alcohol or whether it's some other form of comfort that they have found that helps them find their positive self, but it's not real and it's not sustainable, and it's making their bodies sick, and they don't know how to monetize, and they don't know how to be themselves, and they don't know how to be happy. None of my children aren't like that, by the way. So if anybody knows who this is speaking, I'm just generalizing. If you know who I am and you know who my children are, and you're thinking, oh my God, what's happened to our children? No, my children are fine. They're actually doing very well. Thank you very much. Thank you for asking, Anyway, who are we? Who am I? And why do I do this show? I think that our better understanding of ourselves will make us softer with each other. If you're worried about me not being realistic, put my teachings in more of a spiritual zone, if you will, because you can forgive your pastor for saying love everybody and we're working for world peace and heaven on earth, and nobody ridicules them for being too idealistic. Yeah, of course, that's what we're shooting for. Don't ever criticize me for being too idealistic. The fact is I think we can get there sooner rather than later if we would get off of fossil fuel and onto a fuel source that was better. I'm not saying we need to realistically turn to green energy like solar energy, and although it has a place, the thing is we need to get on the ultimate energy source. We need to get on source energy. But there's been even better ways. Over Unity, remember I said it's a device that puts out more energy than it takes us to run it. It doesn't mean that we're creating energy out of nothing. It means there's various ways that this has been done. And right now, I would direct you to the movie, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. And next week, when I'm doing this show, when I get to this point in the show, boom, I'm going to have a link right here as I say this, that you could, in that moment, if you wanted to, go away from me in YouTube and click on this link and watch this movie. Here it is. Boom, here's the link. Well, I don't know how to do that yet. Hopefully, my teacher is coming over on Thursday. And if she is still sick and won't do it for me, she needs to find me somebody that I'll advertise for it somewhere. You know, hey, I'll pay $25 an hour, and I guarantee you at least 8 hours of work. But you need to be able to teach me Xity, Xity, X. And then I will take your references, and you can come over, because I don't want you to come over and rob me, right? We're going to learn how to do all these things. So I would refer you at that moment to the lost century and how to reclaim it. But in this movie, they show you things like one guy, and I like this idea. I wish I knew somebody who really understood electricity and creatively understood electricity, wanted to put electrical engineering and applied electrical works to this real life problem of over unity. Now, these devices have been built before, and the mad scientist who created it took it to the patent office and, would have it snatched away from them in the name of national security. But this one guy, what he did, this device that put out however many ohms or amps or watts or however you measure the output of an energy source like this, amperage or whatever it is. I'm not sure what the word would be for what it's producing that could power something. It's like generating power. But it was locked into the magnetic field, the electromagnetic field of the Earth itself, the frequency of that. You lock it into that, and then it's outputting energy. Well, that one was snatched away by the patent office. But if I knew somebody who could work shit like that, then what you do is you create a device, and it's absolutely amazing. And it produces all this energy. And do you know what you do with it? You immediately put it up on the internet, open source, on as many different platforms at once as you can put it up on. You attach your name to it if you want. Make yourself famous. Make yourself a hero to the rest of the world. Give the world the star drive. Hand it to them. Hand it to the hegemony. Hegemony. I've heard that word pronounced different ways. I don't really know. I always pronounced it hegemony. And then I've heard it pronounced hegemony. That's probably what it is, hegemony. That comes from the Snow Queen, by the way. And that little book in between the Snow Queen and the Summer Queen called World's End, where BZ Gundalinu, that I always pronounced Gundhalinu, but his name, as the author tells us, is Gundalinu. He finds the star drive. He rediscovers it, and instead of hogging it to himself and trying to make his own personal fortune, greedily allocating this thing and creating his own empire or whatever, he hands it to the already organized rest of the world. Organization is really important, by the way. Did you know that? Organization is everything. The way we organize ourselves in little ways and the way we organize ourselves collectively in a big way. And we will organize ourselves collectively in a big way. We are going to do that. We do that. We're in the process of doing it all the time. And how it shakes out in the end is going to be determined by what spirit we were under the influence of when we organized it in the first place. What was the spirit of the intention of our organization in the first place? Now, when we originally organized this country to form a more perfect union, establish a common defense, promote the general welfare and da 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 da. And from whatever, I need to go find those words because that would be. I just wasn't in anywhere. I actually at times could even recite that, but I'm nowhere near the all of my information of things like that, or I would have to go look at that. Declaration of Independence, the preamble to the Constitution, all of those things, absolutely beautiful and perfect idealistic words. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And the common defense, I think, is a problem because it is an intention based on a fear and threat and things that I don't think should be organizing us. However, even out in nature, Source gives natural creatures the ability to defend themselves. So, maybe we just need to understand where the common defense, where that mandate ends, Who are we? Right now, obviously, I'm musing about who we are nationally, who we are as a nation. And my particular nation was not formed just because of, although ultimately maybe it is because of geographically speaking where we are. My country, the nation, the identity, its people have come together based on an ideal. We are a creedal people. Supposedly. There are the Blood and Soil Group 2 who have, So, let's pause for just a moment. I'm going to circle back around. Remember, the name of the show is Who Am I? And I have promised that I'm going to be stream of consciousness. I am stream of consciousness doing this thing, whatever this thing is that I do. I am channeling my own inner being. I am disconnecting myself from my practical reality and pulling my integrated self together, pulling all of the things that I idealistically believe and know and desire into one spot, trying with my intention to raise my own consciousness, to raise the consciousness of the humanity around me, for us to have a better understanding of who we are and how to solve our problems. So, who are we and how are we going to solve our problems? We are amazing. My thoughts are going faster than my mouth can go, so forgive me. There was a little bit of gobbledygook there. Who we are is amazing, amazing creatures. And I think we are extra doubly amazing because I think somebody gave us a little evolutionary boost about 200,000 years ago. Somebody stepped in to an already evolving hominidal species on the planet and fused a little chromosome together and plumped up their neocortex to the level where they had a bit more of an overview mind, less of a knee-jerk conditional response to the environment kind of a mind. Knee-jerking to, responding directly to the environment around you. That's what we were before. This overview mind gives you the ability to see a bigger frame. A bigger frame, so that you're seeing past the immediate, circumstances of your life. The loss of your child, the threat of this or the whatever that caused that immediate emotional response. You can see a larger view. Now, with the plumping up of the neocortex comes our more complex emotions, the kinds of emotions that you associate with human beings. Other beings have they definitely have emotions. They feel love, they feel jealousy, they feel fear, they feel hatred, you know, whatever. But they're more environmentally responsive on the surface based emotions. They are not overview based emotions. They are, it's not because that creature doesn't hate you or fear you because it sat in its den spinning cerebral thoughts about, you know, anything about you. It's because somehow you are threatening it in the actual physical environment, and they are responding in the physical environment. Actually, I'm going to change slides. Yesterday's show I didn't change slides once. I'm actually almost proud of that. My ability to be able to do this presentation without any of my slides is good. That's good for me to be able to do it. It means I'd be able to stand in front of a podium someday and give this speech. What speech? It's not speech. I'm just riffing about over unity and the nature of who we are and the kinds of things that might help us solve our problems. The focusing on how we are designed to help us understand when some of us fall into chaotic disorder and disrupt the organization and peace and harmony of the whole. When that happens, how did it happen? Why does it happen? What kind of organization do we want to be humming along in the first place? What we want to be humming along in is everyone free to call their own individual way in a collective organization where all of us are blending and interacting and dancing and, you know, in this way where each one of us calls our own path. Well, the only way you can do that is if the players involved are not bad players. Well, the only way to not have bad players is to understand what makes bad players. To understand that we are all a field phenomenon and that there are reasons why your neighbor is acting up. There's reasons why they are rioting in the streets over there. There's a couple of reasons why that might have started with people in true need. And then oftentimes it's joined by agitators, outside agitators who want to make something look bad and something else look good. They're trying to manipulate situations to their own physical purposes. You got to watch out for that because any cause that is trying to be put forward by outside agitators has something deeply wrong in the spirit of that venture. Let me tell you, there's something deeply wrong there to begin with. There's nothing there that could be done for the better good that would actually be directly better good. Now, everything that happens, no matter what it is things working out for us. And you have to have faith in that. You have to really believe that that is true. And I do believe that's true, but the answer is not just to sit and wait for that to coalesce. The answer is to understand actively that that is true and go make it happen now. Get in on it now. Oops, I did not mean to do that. What I actually meant to do was to go to this slide, which shows you, so you see the neocortex here? About 3/4 of the volume of the modern anatomically modern human comes from human chromosome number 2, which is a fused chromosome. And fused in a very fishy, suspicious way. Not in a way that you could imagine easily how this could happen. Like somebody got struck with lightning or something, and then somehow this just melted together, telomere to telomere, with redundancies on both sides of the equation clipped away. So actually, this is the... Oh, no, that's the wrong slide. It's this one. This is the one I wanted to look at. Modifications followed to stabilize the fusion. That's what this slide is saying right here. This is one of Greg Braden's slide. The modifications that he's talking about is on both sides of the fusion, little redundancies. So if there were redundancies between these two, X redundancy on the right side would have been clipped away, and then Y redundancy on the left side. And now, in order to be whole, this thing needs to stay together. It stabilizes the fusion. It keeps it from just falling apart. I don't think this happened accidentally. I think it was done to us on purpose. And I think that the reason that it was done to us is because our emotions are not illogical. They are important. I see them as part of it. Think of it as like a musical instrument singing to the eternal quantum field. And the most important thing that a human being can do is pay attention to what frequency you are on. Because the frequency that you tune into is the same frequency as the one you're going to end up broadcasting on. Or vice versa. The one you're broadcasting on is the only one you have access to tune into. It's the only frequencies you're hearing is the one that you're on. So what are you on? Are you on a blameful, angry, vengeful frequency? Well, I'll tell you what, one of the candidates out there absolutely is on that frequency all the time. In a point of, you can tell he feels helpless, because you can tell that because he blames everybody else for everything wrong with all of the world. And so how helpless must this man feel? No wonder he feels like he has to have more and more and more money and more and more and more power in order to do more and more from the outside, because from the inside he feels no power whatsoever, because he is absolutely in misalignment, because his head and his heart are not connected to one another. He is King Watiko. And I hope that humanity does not elect him, because if they do, we've got a big lesson coming, and we've got a big freaking visual aid illustration in the physical field to illustrate the point. Our deepest enemy truly is the polarity in the field, not the us and them. The us and them is a form that coalesces on the spirit of the polarity, and it takes shape, and now it's real. What do you mean there isn't an us and them? I'm looking at them, and they are evil. Look at what they're doing to each other, to children, to women, to blah, blah, whatever. Look at that. It is an us and them, and we've got to fight that. Well, the way you fight it is you fight the polarity in yourself. You understand who we are. And you understand what the problem is that we are way up against, we are being forced to compete with each other in ways that we shouldn't be having to compete with each other. We should be competing with each other in who can create the most abundance over here. But the reason that we can't do it is we're trading all our abundance away for the power that we need to run our technologies. And you know what? We don't need to do that anymore. We just don't need to do that anymore. What we need to do is we need to understand how the energies work. So, hold on a second. I want to... Snowy Cliffs. That's the one I want. No, is that where I was? Forest Mountains. That's where I was. We need to understand who we are, because when we can plug into source energy, all of a sudden we don't have to trade all of our worldly goods for the energy that it takes to run these things. We can just run them. And so now, if you have a tractor, if you have the technology, you can go out into the fields and you can plow your fields. You don't have to. You can run your engines. You can run your technology, and not only do you not have to trade your soul for all of the kerosene and gasoline and whatever the other forms of fuel, fossil fuels there are. You don't have to trade your soul for any of that. Now you just have to trade your soul for the technology to begin with. But the energy is free. And so the energy to create things is free. Now, all of a sudden, things are easier to come by because the energy to create them is free. Farming becomes way easier, way cheaper, way quicker. And all of a sudden, it makes sense for small farmers to go back into business, to produce goat cheese or tangerines or applesauce or maple syrup or whatever it is that they want to produce. We can rebloom this planet. We can rebloom the desert. We have the technology to desalinate ocean water, but it takes energy to do it. And you know what? If the energy is clean and free and everywhere, then wherever you are on the edge of any ocean, you could create fresh water from where you are, and you could bloom the shores of any ocean up and down the bare, dry coast of Chile. All kinds of places in California that are dry. Our pipelines should be piping water everywhere around the planet, not oil. We should be creating lifelines of water everywhere around this planet, and we could be reblooming. We could garden Eden. We could re-garden planet Eden. We could rename her Eden. We could create peace on earth, goodwill towards men. We could do that by recreating the abundance that right now we're creating scarcity. And in this scarcity, everybody trying to survive, we're competing against each other for a smaller and smaller pie, when we should be instead harmonistically, synchronistically, synergistically, co-creating abundance that we're all wallowing in and playing with instead of competing with each other for. It's not a finite pie. It's a pie that expands and expands and expands and expands, but you have to work the grid in such a way that you're expanding the pie. And right now, our philosophies, our ideas are not expanding the pie. We are shrinking the pie, and we're imagining that we are living a paradigm that's a zero-sum game, and we're all in intense competition with each other for this zero finite resource. And that's not the truth. But if you play it that way, you can start making it the truth. We don't want to make that the truth. That's a terrible paradigm, and it isn't really even the right one. The right one is a paradigm of ever-expanding abundance that we could be playing with and with each other joyfully. I think the key is the energy. This idea of carbon footprint and this idea of trading all of our worldly goods away for the energy that it takes to run the worldly goods when it's not necessary. So go watch that movie, the Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. It's a documentary documenting many instances where these devices have been created and snatched away from us on the grounds of national security issues. Now, I can understand that from many different directions. I can understand that both from a direction that I don't agree with and a direction that I kind of do agree with. And that I believe that what we need to do is we need to expand our sense of who we are first so that we can be trusted with free, clean energy everywhere. And then brace ourselves because we're going to be dealing with a lot of little kingdoms, lots of little cults and kingdoms are going to crop up. And some of them are going to be armed to the teeth. And we're going to have to be ready for all of that, understanding how to deal with them peacefully and logically and joyfully and integratively and, soothingly. Let's soothe everybody into their better behavior. We can't threaten them into their better behavior. You threaten them, they bristle, It is akin to the old joke, and the beatings will continue until morale improves. In other words, and they will not only continue, they will get, the worse morale gets, the worse those beatings will get. I'll give you something to cry about. It's that kind of mentality, and I'm telling you, it's not going to work. And you might say, okay, it's not going to work, but that's what I feel like. Well, this is where we get into the individual aspect of it. Understanding the meaning of your own negative self. So that you don't just glom onto that negative self and run with it as though it's really you. It isn't really you. But you are responsible for it. You're the one who is unleashing it into the world. You are the one who is somewhat responsible for the chaos that ensues. Because whenever you are, hold on one second. All right, I've lost my train of thought because of my computer's cleaner, my CC cleaner came up and I got distracted. Oh yeah, we were talking about your own negative self and your own responsibility for it. It isn't actually you. The truest you that you really are is a positive being that is very positively and productively connected to the whole physical field around us. You are and I am and all of us are that. But depending on where we've gone in our minds, we might be being something different. Because there definitely is negative stuff out there. There definitely is... So, what is the meaning of your negative self? Who am I? I see that I've gone past an hour, and I'm wondering how deeply I want to jump into this. If you're a fan of the show, you will know that I've been saying for the last couple of days that I am starting to plan a marathon show. I think I want to do a whole day's work where I start early in the morning and I go for hours and I line out the whole thing. I describe everything until I'm at the end. I'm like, well, is that it? Have I said it all? Have I added it all up together? I don't know how many hours that will take me, but I'm planning on doing this in the near... I think I'm going to podcast it at the same time so people can jump in and out through the day while I am busy with this. I will also post it to my various platforms when I'm done, and people can just go look at it. I'm not monetizing any of this at this moment. I am not optimizing anything. There's no commercials in anything. I'm not... I simply want to put forward this message of supreme hope, that when we as human beings understand who we really are, what kind of beings we really are, where we came from, how we operate, when we understand that, we are going to come into our own on planet Earth. We're going to clean up the garbage. We're going to garden the junky spots. We're going to create abundance where there was only scarcity before. We're going to breathe life back into places that looked like they were dying. We can do all of these things because we are the whole field. And our alignment with the reality of the whole field gives us more and more power to exert the power of this positive field over whatever projects we want to cast our magic over. And when we understand that, we will be able to heal, bind up and heal the wounds of planet Earth. And rebloom the deserts, recreate abundance where we have only created scarcity. Peace to the war zones, and elect only positive, happy, bubbly, peppy people that we want to be our figureheads. You know, in a way, it's too bad the president has so much power. The president shouldn't have that much power. The power should be spread out in the platform more. And the platform should be very, very clear. This is what we stand for. This is what we believe on this side. And this is what we stand for. And this is what we believe over here on that side. And whoever is the one who gets elected is pledging allegiance to this set of this platform or this platform. But with the autocrat, you got a different problem because the autocrat wants all the power for himself. And then he wants to be able to say, to delegate. He wants to be the one to be the center of the organization. The one who says, I'm going to give all of you people the power to do this. You go forth and you guys, you want to do this project? Great, I like that. You guys go do that project. That's a whole different operation than a country that wants to somehow suss out what's best for all the people and do it from that direction. We're in that moment where we are either going to turn authoritarian or we're gonna figure out who we are and how this works. Or we're going to go authoritarian, and then through that horrible, ugly, painful experience, we are going to find out who we are and how this works. Our choice. I personally think that the answer is to focus on the isness and the who we really are, and the good part about that, our inner being means harm to no one. Our inner being is standing at the win-win position of all beings. So if you learn who you are, that you are your source self at the same time that you are your physical self, and get into alignment with the source aspect, the field aspect, the rest of everybody else aspect that you are, because you are not just yourself. The whole thing is vibrational, and you are the whole thing. And you are not going to be fully happy until you are playing and dancing joyfully and at the very least, in a harmonious adjacent pattern. You don't have to be part of the organization of the whole, because all kinds of organizations can co-dance with one another. You just can't be in conflict. You have to somehow be with, not against. With, flow with. Leave conflict behind. Resistance is futile. There's a reason why they say that. And it's not to get you to quit fighting back against evil. It's to get you to quit fighting back against evil and instead spend all of your time embracing good. Embracing good will push back against evil way better than pushing back against evil ever did. Pushing back against evil only makes you that creepy marm, who's always looking for people who are, under the influence of the devil. Well, who do you think is really under the influence of the devil? That wicked, sly person who's always looking for, other people being wicked? She'll say, it's not me, it's them. I'm just being vigilant. No, you're just busy resonating that same damn negative frequency. Anyway, life is so interesting. We are so interesting, and there is so much possibility for us, so much hope you wouldn't believe it. And I think that the hope part of it lies where we focus on who we are and how it works. And that's how we will find the answer to our prayers, to our problems, answer to the sixth mass extinction and the endless wars and the scarcity, global poverty, growing deserts. That's part of the growing scarcity issue. All of those things that I see as problems on planet Earth. And why do I think that getting us off fossil fuel and onto source energy, why do I think that that's the answer? Well, I'll tell you why I think it's the answer. Because all of a sudden it would inject so much literal energy into the system. Now, I also understand that it's going to throw a lot of people who are depending on their particular way of claiming a piece of the human marketplace, the human supply chain. It's going to be interrupted because this is going to be so much better than fossil fuel. It's going to very, 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 very quickly put all of fossil fuel out of business. Because how much better to just extract it free from the air? How much cheaper is that? How much better is that? And so everybody who is getting their supply of food and energy, forget about that. Their cars and they're paying the rent and everything because of the fossil fuel industry. They're not going to let go of the fossil fuel industry because it's going to put them out on their butt. But you're going to have free, clean energy. Yeah, but I don't have any of the technology that it takes to extract it that way. So I don't personally have any of that, and I don't know how to do any of that. So what do I have? And I don't live in a country that has what we should do in this country is give everybody a universal basic income to make sure that everybody has the ability to be flexible in their job. Now, don't make it too good, but make it so that your children don't starve. You have decent housing. You aren't desperate. You have your own ability to choose what you how you spend that universal basic income. But that basic income, have it be enough that with just the tiniest bit of cleverness on your part, you are not in desperate straits. Then, if we invent things that put some faction of our lives out of business because something better is discovered, what happens if you invent something that makes everybody's teeth strong, white, and perfect? You'd want that, right? You'd want that for everybody. Not just for the one person who invented the idea and then they get rich and only people who can. What you really want to do is throw that discovery open. Everybody understands it now, but what have you done? You've put all the dentists out of business. You've put all the teeth whitening producers out of business. You've put all the X, Y, and Z out of business because you've come up with a better idea. We suppress better ideas right and left in order to protect the jobs of the people doing the thing that it would be better if they weren't doing it. It's what happens. It's why some people resist automation, because they don't want their crap job automated away, because their crap job is the only thing that gives them that certificate that allows them to go to the grocery store and buy food for their children. We've got to change this system somehow. We've got to give all of our people universal basic income and universal health care, not tied to a job. It will give each and every one of us a lot more flexibility, a lot more ability to chase our dreams and discover marvelous things that they can bring back to share with the rest of humanity. I mean, to believe that we won't do that is to not think well enough of. We need to think better of ourselves. We need to know that at the core of ourselves is a really cool, idealistic being, not a. Hold on a second. Hobbes is the one I was trying to think of. Now, the father of conservative thought is Thomas Hobbes, and the father of what's the opposite of, would it be progressive thought? I'm not sure what the opposite of conservative is John Locke. And if you look at both of them, they have such a different outlook on the world. One is so pessimistic and so dark, and the other one is so hopeful. Locke is the one that Jefferson quoted a lot. The bit about the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was a variation of something that Locke had said. And Hobbes, oh my gosh, his description of life is just so dark. And there is a vein of thinking that believes that there are crap people. There are bad people. Not misaligned people, bad people. And that these bad people, if you give them a free ride, they will just suck the life out of your country. They will, and in their laziness and in their idle hands, they will devil's workshop the country into ruin. And so you have to be tough on that. You can't give people a free ride. You have to make sure that they have to work for it all the time in order to da-da-da-da. That's more the conservative outlook, as opposed to believing in people and believing in the good of people and leaning into the inner beings of all of us. One of the reasons that people are being bad is they are given a paradigm where they have no stake in it, and they're not interested in. It's not working for them at all. They're asked to support this paradigm, and all they want to do is burn it to the ground. They're so frustrated with it, and so they are acting poorly. But it's not because they're bad people. It's because of certain energy patterns in play in the field at the time. And I believe that our own giving into our own negative selves and birthing our own negative self into the world, as in find yourself facing backwards, you're in a negative state, and you sally forth and conditionally focus and act from that negative state anyway, I think there are consequences. you're gonna have consequences. When you act in that negative state, you wake up the next morning and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? I keyed his car. I carved my freaking initials into his leather seats. You know, that's they're gonna the law is going to punish me for this. You know, or whatever. There's more consequences than that. I think that since we are bigger beings than just the bodies that we find ourselves in, we actually extend farther than that out, and we include more of what's around us. That's why it's not good enough to just screw over the world. F you, I've got mine kind of an attitude. That really is a contradicted within you attitude, because your inner being knows that you don't really feel that way. You will be happy when you are fully playing fully with the full field that you are. All of us will feel happiest and you know what? It's coming. I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime, but we have some really satisfying, joyful, happy moments coming to us in the future as we click into alignment and rediscover our abundance, our sense of abundance, our engine of abundance. We're going to turn this whole thing around. But first, we've got to know, who am I? Who am I? And with that, I'm going to leave you for today. I'm over an hour and 20 minutes into the show. That's good enough for one day. Later this week, we'll be look for this show on where you get all of your podcasts. I'm going to start streaming it everywhere I can. Right now, I'm sort of in a little corner, a little neck of the woods where nobody knows where I am. I have 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or occasionally a smattering. And God bless you for that. Thank you so much for being with me on this journey. I love you. I appreciate you. I really do. And until tomorrow, as always, it's a corny line, but I like it. May the source be with you.